Hi everybody, my name is Daryl Garza and I am a blind leather crafter. I specialize in dog equipment, leashes, collars, slip leads, and modifications for service dog equipment. I've been doing this for about 9 to 10 years. I started off making a leash for my service dog, and I got involved with a service dog school here in Texas and started making their equipment and modifications, and eventually started making some equipment for other service dog schools in the United States. So today I'm going to be making a slip lead just with a basic piece of leather, and I'm making these videos because I want to show everyone that leathercraft isn't only for sighted individuals, because I'm actually completely blind. So I'm working with a piece of harness leather that I cut down. It is 5/8 of an inch wide and maybe about 14 ounces thick. So I like making my equipment usually about 8 to 9 ounces. So I'm going to shave it down with a splitter. And for individuals that cannot see, my splitter is a little device that has like a rolling pin that you push back and forth, and that puts pressure on the leather against a blade that has a cutting surface about 4 inches or so. And it's very sharp. I actually cut myself when I was sharpening this, so I know it's good. So I'm just going to draw it through. Got that shaved. And I'm going to draw the rest of it. So the leather that I'm working with is harness leather from Tandy Leather Factory. It's a pretty good durable product. I like it, and I've not had any issues with it in the past. So, and after you work with it, it gets a real nice supple texture. And before it was real rigid, and now it's nice and floppy. So after I've cut it down to the thickness I want, I'm just going to measure it with a piece of leather for my reference, and that is right about 8 to 9 ounces. And I'm going to run it through the splitter just the opposite direction, because it has a real coarse feel to it. So I'm going to run it through to kind of get it a little nice and fluffy. And there we go. So my next step is to bevel it. And I used to take a long time beveling, because before I would have to go through a piece. And let me find a little scrap here. That's the piece I'm working with. Let's see. Pause for a moment. There we go. So when you're beveling, everyone, beveling is taking the sharp edge of the leather and kind of rounding it. And in case of the leashes, it just makes it a little bit more comfortable. But so you have to do that, and it's not consistent because you might shift your tool, and the tool has a little notch that you just kind of line up on the edge and just run across the edges, and it'll shave a little bit of off. So there's that. Easy beveling. So what I did to help speed up the process is I got this piece of rubber from a cutting mat and a wooden peg that came with my workbench, and made a tool to where I just have to start a bevel, and then I just pull the leather through. So let me get this going. And so I got that started. And there we go, we got spaghetti. We got all the other sides to this. There's that edge. And even though this is going to be going around your dog's neck, still want it to be a little comfortable for them. They're not going to feel it, but if you're going to do it, if you're going to make something, give it the best you can. So this side is always a little bit tougher to do, but with this it goes nice and easy. And beveling makes the biggest mess in my workshop. I don't know about y'all's, so I always keep a shop vac ready. And when I'm done with my project, I can just suck everything up and nice and clean. Alright, so that's nice and beveled now. Let me get the edges. Alright, so I got that done. And now I'm going to put a little bit of it's like a hydrating paste. Actually, no, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to work on burnishing the edges to get them nice and slick. Now I just need to find my little jar of water, which I thought I had somewhere over here. You know, you think you have everything prepared, and something like this happens. Hang tight, guys. And in case you're wondering if I actually was blind, here's your answer, because I lost my stuff. Oh, jeez. Right in front of y'all. Thanks for shouting out. Alright, so I don't like to get my leather too wet, but let's give it a quick dunk like this. And it's not really cooperating with me to just slide through. There we go. And I do that. So, and if you're wondering what this huge circle is, this is actually is it Fantastic Leather Burnisher or something to that effect. I don't have the felt wheels that came with it. I just have a wood burnisher that I got from Tandy. And I have it pedal operated, so I won't get beat if my leather gets caught on the wheel, because it spins at 1,750 RPM. And yes, I have had a strap get caught when I was holding it in my lap, and I got hit about 200 times before I can get it off on my lap and turned off. It wasn't fun. So there's this. Just giving it a quick little run through. And from what I hear, this motor is actually a washing machine motor. So, yeah, it's got some power. And I just realized that my wax is being held in by the C-clamp that's holding this motor in. So, gotta move that. This is one of the only items that's not bolted down to my workbench. And the other clamp is holding it in too. So, there goes that. Slide this over just a little bit. Let's try it again. There we go. So, burnishing, for those not in the know, it is quite what it sounds like. It burns the edge of the leather, but also lays down all the grains and gives it a nice kind of polished edge. And oops, I didn't show you all that edge before. I just broke off a piece of my workbench, but it's got a slight, polishing now because of what I just ran across with the water. So I like making my own wax mixes, and this one is some beeswax mixed with a little bit of soy, paraffin, and I put lavender essential oil because fleas do not like lavender. So figure, kind of like a flea collar kind of deal. Makes the leather smell good. Lavender and leather smell good together, in my opinion. And just one of those little touches that, could just do for our little furry friends instead of having to deal with the harsh chemicals of all those other flea collars. And because my clamp just broke part of my workbench off, I'm just going to hold the motor down with my hand and burnish it like that and see if that'll work. If not, yeah, I could just attempt to reclamp it. And the wax is a little soft. I've tried several mixes in my drawer. I probably have about 10 different chunks of wax that are different ratios of beeswax, paraffin. I have one that's straight paraffin, and that is some tough stuff. But it gives a really nice shine. But it's you gotta put a lot of elbow grease into applying it. And if you see how this piece of leather is really nice and wobbly, it doesn't really work out too well. So, but just apply it like this. And actually, I'm gonna have to recline the motor down, so bear with me for a second while I do that. Let's see. So I'm very particular about my products that I put out because, as I was saying, at least I think I said it, I used to have a service dog and I made equipment for her. And although she was not hard to control, this equipment is kind of like a seatbelt, the way I see it. I want to make sure that it is a last line of protection that, or I guess the first line of protection that I have to make sure she's safe and close to me. And they're very important. So, with our dogs, that's our family member. So, you want to put your kid in a seatbelt that was kind of torn up. So, let's see, gotta find my pedal. There it is. And I'm just gonna polish the wax in a little bit. And I might be a little dressed up for this. I normally do leather work in old work clothes because I've ruined many a shirt and jeans, but I'm not working with any dyes today, so I figure I'm a little safe. But I've had black stains all over my clothes, and yeah, it gets a little old having to buy new clothes because you keep ruining them. But I don't know if I finished saying we're burnishing those, but it slightly burns the fibers of the leather and gives them a real nice, smooth, polished finish. And aesthetically, it's nice, and on your hands, it's really nice. So I just burnished up all the edges, and I like to have the bottom side of the leather worked in pretty well too. So I'm just gonna run that across the wheel a little bit. And eventually, this will smooth out with your dog's oils and being run across their fur. But I just like to give it a little bit of a head start if I can. So it doesn't hurt to be thorough with everything. Listening to that. And so here we go. If you can see the edges on here, ta-da! It's rounded because of the bevel, and it's polished because of the wax and the heat. And so now I am going to add a little bit of a hydrating cream that I got from Tandy. Since I'm done with this motor, I'm gonna take it off so I have a little more space to work. Alrighty, so I don't really know what this cream is called. I just know that it's organic, and you saw me smell it. Yes, I'm guilty. It has almond. That's all I know. And I want to taste it so bad, but probably be poisonous. But it smells so good. Yeah, I wouldn't mind trying to cook with it. But I don't like the smell of neatsfoot oil, and I think it's mink oil with minerals and things like that. It just smells like machine oil. I don't like that if I'm going to be putting that on my dogs or having it on my skin. Nothing really against the neatsfoot oil, it just stinks. So, but it does a very good job of hydrating the leather. And I did put some wax here, but it's not completely embedded in all the pores, so it should absorb a little bit of this cream from the bottom side. And I'm almost out of this stuff, so I need to order some. One thing I did forget to get is shop towels, and I don't want to wipe this on my jeans, so yeah, if it's good for leather, maybe it'll work like lotion. And so now I am ready to put a rivet, and I need to get some D-rings, so give me just a quick second. And organization is key with all of your stuff. If anybody knows me, you're probably gonna laugh at me saying that, but I am a bit of an organized mess, so I roughly know where all my stuff is, unless somebody comes in and moves it, but it's whatever. Then you have a ton of little bins of pieces. For me, at least it's hard to keep track. I'll just grab around and reach, keep trying, and find what I need to find. So these are 5/8 inch D-rings that I like to use. Also, you can get those from Tandy. So what I'm going to do is set one side in with a rivet, and these are just tubular rivets. Get this out of the way for right now. They're tubular rivets that you can get at Tandy, and this is a hand press from Tandy. I don't really know what it's called, but I love it. It makes things so much easier. Before, it used to take me about 4 hours to make a leash or collar, and with this, being able to punch holes and set a rivet at the same time is a serious game changer. And I like the natural edge of leather, so I like to leave it on as much as I can. And I don't like to skive the leather at the ends, just so I can keep the strength of the leather as much as possible. And I've learned more or less where to set this so it'd be as centered as possible. And oh yeah, so I can get a little hands-free, I'll put a cable on this handle so I can just press the rivets with my legs or with my foot and hold this, and there it goes. So I've got one rivet set, so ta-da. And now, just to make it a slip, just loop one end through the leather. And what I like to do actually is loop it around my thigh, thicker the better, just to kind of give it a good gauge on a dog's neck. And I will put a little bit of a crease, a little up the leather to give some wiggle room, but these collars don't need to be any particular length for the dogs, but you can set a little limiter on them, which I'm going to show you how to do in just a second. Not a lot of people do that, but I like to just in case. Yeah. Safety first, and then teamwork. Rivet. The cool thing about my workbench is I have a little underbench, or a little like shelf underneath, so I can rest my foot on there until I'm ready to start pressing. And so I've got it there. There we go. And I want to give it a little more. I'm wearing my boots right now, so it's kind of in the arch of my foot. But oh well, there we go. And there's all my body weight. Pushing, riveting. Ta-da. So now that we have that done, we have this little tail here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that tail off. And I'm going to use that to make a size limiter. I like straight lines. I don't know about y'all, but you know, I got to do it as the best I can. That's just the way I am. So I'm going to get this a little bit closer, as close as I can, till my knife can at least slide in here. And I got this knife at Tandy. They stopped making them, I think, but it's supposedly Damascus steel. You know, you can say that, but all I know is that it is sharp. So, and I love it. And I'm actually going to leave it out because I need it in just a second. And now that I have that rough edge, I'm going to get the beveler again, and I'm just going to pop that off because I like to be round. And you can get this workbench at Harbor Freight. I don't remember how much it was. I think it was maybe like maybe $100, give or take. Okay, so I don't loop this back in, no problem. All you have to do is from the back side. Actually, I'm gonna make this handle side because it's got the raw end on it. What I have to do is just force it through, and it's gonna take a little bit of work, but it'll get there. Maybe a little more work than I was expecting. Anyway, we'll work on that in a second. I might just have to drill out this rivet, but that'll be okay. Actually, what I can do, is that gonna make a difference as much? I've got these nippers. I used to use these to cut my copper rivets, and it gives me a straight edge. I'm getting a little bit closer because that's what's keeping me from folding this back through. So I'm just gonna nip that. No problem, nice and close. Feel free to laugh if you don't want to. At least I know the integrity of this rivet's pretty good, because that's a lot of what's keeping me from pushing this through along with the edges. I had an idea of a tool to use to kind of push it through, but that's not there. And I use a magnet to keep all my pieces for my press attached to my press, because you see they're pretty small and they tend to wander off a bit. There we go. Problem solved. And that's what separates us from the apes, because we use tools. Okay, so crisis averted. So now we're ready for that size limiter. So Luckily I've got a pretty decent sized piece of scrap here. And what you're gonna do is you just fold it over the edge like this. You get it as snug as you can. And I think in this situation there's no such thing as too snug. And so when you try and adjust it, it'll move along like that, but the D-ring won't be able to pass it. So, and then you just have that little extra bit of length, and so it'll be a lot tighter than that after I push a rivet in. As you can see, these rivets are very good at holding. So, there's that. And I can feel where the edge of the leash, or the collar is. So, I'm going to put that right at the edge of this tool. Give it a press by hand. And just back it up with my foot, just to be on the safe side. Oh yeah. My foot's still in the loop. Okay. So now, it is very hard to adjust. So, you're looking good. And now just to cut off the excess. Let's see what I did with my knife. That's not the one I want. So I probably left it somewhere up here. There you are. Again, straight edge, as straight as I possibly can get. Oh, I'm just gonna cut this off first. Do that. I'm not gonna cut this too short, so whoever gets this will have a little bit of finger room on it. But there we go. Let me cut a little bit more because that was barely anything. You know, because I can, I'm going to put an extra rivet because this has a little bit of play in it, and I want it to be as solid as can be. But before I put the rivet in, I'm going to bevel again. Actually, just, whoops. Yeah, there's not going to be any blooper reel, guys. Y'all are just going to get what y'all get because I don't know how to edit video yet. So, enjoy. There we go. And in this case, magnets are your friend when it comes to all of these little metal items. I'm going to press my beveler, and there we are. If you're wondering, yes, I do spend a lot of my time looking for my tools because I don't remember where I left them. But that's okay. And just to burnish up those edges, I have the nylon slicking, actually, I have the wood slicker. As I was just saying, I spend the majority of my time looking for my tools. I've got so many different tools in this workbench. It's not even funny. Alright, I'm going to use the nylon slicker because it does the same thing. And if you're wondering what this is the security device for a square stand. It just happened to fit perfectly in this nylon slicker once I bored out the hole just a little bit. And I put it in a mini shop press, and that's my old burnisher, and it worked pretty good. So, just doing that. Nice and good. Get one of those spilled rivets. Put it in here. So I have almost fallen with this contraption. My foot was a little too caught up and I lost my balance. And luckily I had something to grab onto because I almost went down. Good thing about life is you can always laugh at yourself. So that's what I did. Okay, so now all my rivets are pressed and they all have a little bit of a coarse bottom, which I don't really like. So what I do to remedy that is I swap out one of the attachments for this press with it's a cap rivet attachment. I don't really like the cap rivets or the two-piece rivets or whatever you want to call them, but the attachment for the smallest one is a nice little domed kind of thing, and it flattens out the rivets very nicely, because the other rivet, they were a tube and it gets split by that attachment that I just took out, and it splits it into 5 pieces into a little star, and it leaves it a little bit rough. So I like to make sure that everything, for the person's hand, for the dog's fur, is as smooth and comfortable as I can possibly make it, just because, I know I like that consideration just in case. So, just gonna press down 2 more rivets and I will be done with this little project. There we go. So here you go, guys. Here's a simple slip lead that you can make in just a couple of minutes with a couple of tools. And to use these properly, there's an actual way to use them. People use chain chokers and stuff like that, and when it is upside down, see, it doesn't release on my arm. So what you want to do is have it to where it is straight across, the top part is across, and the D-ring is hanging. And so when you pull it, and then, it's not really giving right now, but if I had some weight on it, it would give and this would slide and it would open up on your dog's neck. So that's the proper way to use them. And if y'all want more, please share and let me know what y'all would like for me to make for y'all. Thank you.